They're going to go make a cup of tea, and then we'll see what happens.
I don't know what's going on here. Okay, whatever.
It's a frazzle day, okay?
Hey, welcome to our podcast and our unscripted, unfiltered, and ranty episode. And today we're doing another special author interview with our very own Clarissa Gosling. Hi!
Yay! Say hi, Clary!
Clary's like, okay.
I was like, do I get to say hello? Yes, hi.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't put that in parentheses, but yes, you can say hello. I'm Valia, your show host or whatever we're calling me, but Joanna is also here.
Hello!
Yes, and yeah, we're excited to be here. We love doing these. I love doing these because it's just fun to like feature, us like the queens as writers because it is our first thing, right? So
Right.
it's like really fun to just be like, let's just talk about all your books, and that's what we're gonna do.
Well, and Clary and I realized that we've never been on together.
No, so that's...
That as many times as both of us been on, this is the first time we've been together, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird how that happens because it's been happening a lot for these like season 2 episodes. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I did actually like change up groups enough that people are like, oh my goodness, like I've never been with you before, which
Well,
is fun.
When there are 11 of us,
Yes.
it takes a while before we all get to be together.
This is true. Yeah, so if you guys have been with us from the beginning, you have heard Clara introduce herself before, but she's our guest of honor today, so we're gonna kind of have her do it again. So yeah, tell us about you. Introduce yourself to the class.
Yeah, to the class. Okay, hi, I'm Clary. Yeah, that's short for Clarissa. So all my books I write as Clarissa Gosling. I am a mum of 2. I'm British, as you can probably hear from my accent. But I actually live in the Netherlands, so I am an expat living here in the wonderful flatlands. And
how long have you been there?
Oh, we've been here 7 years now. Yeah, 7 years, which feels like forever and not very long at all. In that sort of weird thing.
Is your husband from the UK also?
He's British as well. Yes.
Okay.
He got a job over here, and I was pregnant with my daughter at the time, and had already planned to give up my work. I used to be a librarian, and so we're like, well, let's go. And for him, it was like a dream job. It's one of anyway, his dream job. And so it's like, yeah, well, why not? Let's go. Yeah, let's go. So we did, and it's great. And we love it here, and the children are very happy here, and they go to the local Dutch school and are learning Dutch, and it's all fun. And at the moment, we're in the middle of Sinterklaas celebrations, which is sort of like Santa, but sort of not, and doesn't happen at Christmas, which... it's also something we didn't know anything about before we came here, so that's fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
And my books, I should say something about my books.
I was going to say.
I'm in the middle of writing 2 fantasy series. One is about dragons and a girl called Birgith, and the other is a Faye series about a girl called Zoe. And I'm alternating books in each series. So the second book in my Dragon series is coming out at the end of the month. And then the second book in my Fae series is due to be published at the end of April next year.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about the Dragon book since that's coming out November 30th.
Yeah.
So, that's exciting. I know. It's really fun, and I love your new covers for them. I think they look really great. If you guys haven't seen
gorgeous.
it, I'll post it on... Yeah, they're great. And I love dragons, so it's like really fun to just, I don't know, I just love dragons, so it's fun to read about dragons.
Too.
Yeah. So let's talk about the first book, okay? So just give us like a brief overview on what it's about, so that people who haven't read it yet can know.
Yeah. Okay, so Birgith is approaching what's called the manifestation test. So she has grown up as part of the Bear clan, the land they live in is called Kate Stud, and it's split into 4 areas, and each area is run by a different clan, and they all shift into different animals. So she's in the bear clan because they shift into bears. And although her father is from the bear clan, her mother is actually a dragon. So she's half and half. But nobody knows that dragons exist anymore. They thought that they hunted all the dragons out hundreds of years before. But they didn't, because her mother hid in the mountains. Because, anyway, yeah, that's her mother. But she then felt the need to procreate and to mate, and she found a willing man, and they then had children. Or she then left him and went back to the mountains and laid her eggs, because she is a dragon, and the dragons are dragons first, and then when they reach maturity they shift into humans. But when the eggs hatch, there are 3 boys and a girl, but the girl hatches as a human baby. And the mother can't cope with 3 dragons and 3 baby dragons and a human baby. So she has to take the human baby back to the father and go and say, hey, guess what? I'm a dragon. You thought we were all dead. And can you raise this girl? Well, this is all what happens before the book. So the book starts with her. She's been brought up among the shifters with her father. And she's then facing this test to see if she can shift, and does she shift into a bear. And if she shifts into a bear, then she is allowed to be a member. She's then becomes a member of the clan and all the things that go along with that. And so she's then really worried because, of course, if she shifts into a dragon rather than a bear, then, she's just exposed a secret that dragons still exist. And, they're probably all going to kill her because she's going to be in this big, area full of all of the bear clan shifters, the bear lord, the bear leader, and all of the other people are all there. And then they'll go hunting for all the other dragons, and she knows that her mother and her 3 brothers are in the mountains. And at some point, she wants to go there and meet them because she's never met them. Except
that's excellent conflict.
Yeah, except neither of that happens. This is sort of telling you what happens. It is in the blurb. So
don't tell them what happens.
Don't get too spoilery.
It's in the blurb. So in the blurb that she doesn't manage to shift at all. And so she is then not able to be a clan member, and she's classed as human. And she then has to move and leave her father and move to where all the humans live, and humans are much more restricted, and then she's trapped. And she can't learn how to shift, and she can't escape to go and find her mother or her brothers. And that's like the setup of the story.
Nice.
That's great conflict too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's just so much going on, but it's like so good. Yeah, so very cool. And obviously book 2 is coming out. So, you guys can definitely check it out. I'll leave a link for all of Clary's stuff below. But can we talk about what inspired you to write it? Was there like a specific inspiration, or you're like, I just want to write about dragons because I love them so much? And
I love dragons. I grew up reading all the Anne McCaffrey Dragon Riders of Pern stories, and I
like those.
I can't tell you how many cuddly toy dragons and random dragon things we have. Somehow they just amass themselves, and that's great. I love them all. And I just, my initial inspiration was all about what happened. What if dragons were matriarchal and the boys couldn't procreate? And then how would that work? And what would that mean? And then somehow I got the whole setup of, well, what if they think they've all died out and they haven't, and this girl's then trapped in the middle and trying to find her family, and then it all sort of came from there.
So just went down the rabbit hole of what if.
I mean, that's a good place to start, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, when I first get an idea, I just start like brain dumping and just random writing down ideas and things in no logical order, just seeing how they all flow, and just, what if this, what if that, how would that work? Well, we could do that, or what about the other, or and let's go off on this tangent off this way. And so then I have to try and look back at it and go, okay, so does this actually work? What can I actually take from this?
How much of this actually makes sense?
Because coming back to this a day later, do I actually know what on earth I'm talking about? Or is it just leaping from one thing to the other with no connection?
That's how my brain dumps look too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had this brilliant idea, and then I go look back at it, and I'm like, I don't think those are words. So, like, I don't know what this is. But that's really fun. So what was your favorite part about working on this series? Like, is there like a specific scene that you loved, or like lore that you discovered, or just like anything that stands out, like right off the bat? Because I'm just asking you.
I really like trying to, because all of the different clans are based on different animals. So there's a bear clan, a wolf clan, a cat clan, and a fox clan. And when I was originally setting that up and trying to think about it, it's like, okay, so what makes each clan distinct, and trying to tie it back to some of the characteristics of those animals.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Which probably doesn't come over in the book at all. I mean, I don't know. But like the bear clan is very caring. They are very community orientated, and they really value and nurture children. Whereas the fox clan is a lot more hierarchical, and you don't break orders, and they have the leader, and then the people are underneath it, and whatever. Whereas the fox clan is a lot more ambitious, and there's a lot more jockeying, and they aren't always content with what they want and want to up themselves. And then the cat clan tends to all be in much smaller groups, and they're much more self-sufficient.
Interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, that's really cool world building there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so Joanna, do you have any pressing questions for Clary since you're here?
Well, I'm going to ask you more about your dragon shift. How many more books?
It's going to be a trilogy, so there should be one more book coming out, which is up for pre-order for the end of October next year.
So watch for that.
Yeah. Nice.
So the first book's called Dragon Shift, the second book is called Dragon Heir, and the third book is called, or will be called, Dragon Queen.
Ooh.
Okay. Exciting.
So question, what's your writing process? Like, do you know what's going to happen at the end? Do you outline?
I do outline. I have tried not outlining, and I just got stuck, and I'm like, okay, well, they're going to go make a cup of tea, and then we'll see what happens. So I have I have a book which it's a trunk novel. It's probably not going to be ever published, or if it does, I probably need to rewrite it, because I think that will be quicker than editing what I have. And every so often they go and make a cup of tea and then I'm like, oh, actually maybe she saw something out the window, and then this happens. So it was an interesting process, but I don't want to do it again. So I do outline. I have a vague outline for the arc of the series, and then I pin it down more for each of the books as I go through. And I really enjoy drafting and writing it and that thing, and I find the editing really difficult, and that's what takes me the most time.
Interesting. I'm the opposite. I find editing easier. But are they going to have a cup of tea still?
They do drink tea every so often.
Yeah. I was like, when I outline, that's what I do. Like anytime I try to outline, I feel like all my people are doing are just like walking over to the closet to get another coat or getting some food from the kitchen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. I can't do this.
It's so funny how different we are.
Mm-hmm.
Because my trunk novel, as Clary described, was the same. They just did a lot of nothing. That's why it's not published.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Okay, but I did actually have a question about the other series that you have going on. It's a Faye series, and all three of us write Faye here. So I just like how different our Faye is, even though we're all writing Faye. But can you just give us, you're working on that next after this book, right? Like the next book in that series?
Yeah, the second book in that series is written, and I will be starting editing that at some point when I get around to it. That's what I really need to be doing.
When is that scheduled to come out?
End of April.
Okay, yeah, so you're just kind of giving it 4 or 5 months in between releases? That works.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'm doing two books a year, so it's about 4 or 5 months of work with school holidays and everything else, and factored in as well.
Yeah. So how different is it? Like, is there a different process for you writing the Fae books versus the dragon books?
Process? No, I don't think so.
Okay. I was just wondering, because when I go back between books, like I write differently in certain ways. Like when I'm working on my Fae stuff, I write like big scenes, all the big scenes first, and then I go back and add the in between stuff. But when I'm working like on my cozy, I have to go in order. Even though there's no plan, I'm still going in order.
Oh,
so it's like,
yeah,
it just depends on what I'm working on. If I'm working on more than one thing. So that's why I was like, I wonder if your process is different, but apparently not. It's just me. It's fine.
And it could be that Clary's 2 series they're both fantasy.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
Whereas you're going between
genres. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, they're close genres, but anyway.
Right. Yeah. It's still magic. Everything
it's still
is magic.
Right? But it's different.
Yeah, that's true. Did you do a lot of research for the Fae books too?
Yeah, I did some research. Yeah, and I read a lot of other Fae books as well. And yeah, it's amazing how different they all are, and there are just so many different takes on Fae and how they work and what you can do with them. I think that's one of the fun things about writing them, is that they're...
Yeah, I think it's a fun thing about writing anything. I mean, dragons, the same thing. Like, your dragon book is so different than other dragon books, you know? And it's just because you get to put your spin on it, which is just so fun. Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Exactly. I've written a dragon. Very different. But I think you need to tell us about... Okay, so I read an early version of your first Fae book, which is really good. And the world building was so cool.
Thank you.
So tell us about it.
So tell us about it. Tell us about it, because I think it's so cool.
Okay. I'm not quite sure which... Okay, so my Fae world is based in a forest. The heroine crosses over fairly early in the story from real world, or our current world.
Portal.
It's a portal fantasy, yeah. In fact, the house that she lives in and where she goes and all of that is actually based on the house where I grew up in. And, you know, I know exactly where she's riding. I've changed a footpath into a bridle path so she can ride across the thing. And I know exactly... I've changed the name of the woods. It's not called Sprite Woods, because that's kind of...
Yeah.
But I know exactly where she's going, which is kind of cool. Anyway, she takes her horse for a ride because she's annoyed at her brother, and she crosses over into fairy by mistake without realizing what's happened, and she finds herself in the woods, in the forest, and she meets a few magical creatures, and eventually this guy Evan agrees to help her, take her back to the gate so she can go back to the human world, because he thinks she's a human and wants to take her back. But the way my fairy world is set up is there are 5 courts. Starlight, sunlight, moonlight, dawnlight, and dusklight. And they are all sort of in a circle, and in the centre is a fair. And that fair is sort of at the heart of the land. And the forest moves. So there aren't really many paths through the forest. So if you want to get anywhere, you go into the fair and go out again. And they decide that they have to do that to get her back to the same gate so that she ends up in the same place in the human world. Otherwise, she could end up anywhere. Okay. But one of the restrictions on the fair is that you can't enter it you can't enter it wearing glamour. So, you know, Fae have glamour, they can change how they look, but you can't do that in the fair. And there's no violence and things allowed in the fair, because that's one of the rules. And so Zoe, when she approaches the entrance to the fair, she can't cross into it because she is glamoured. And that's how they find out that she is actually a Fae.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
And 16 years earlier, 2 of the Fae babies I call them sproutlings, because the Fae is all about the forest and very nature. So that the Fae, when they're sproutlings, and then they're seedlings, and then so that's like babies and children, and then they're saplings when they're sort of grown but not really responsible, and then they become adult Fae. And so two sproutlings are stolen from two different courts because of a prophecy, and that then causes a war. One of those courts then blames the other court, and they then attack them. Of course, they don't have the child because somebody else actually took them, and then that court is destroyed. And they then realise that she has to be that child from the court that was destroyed. And so then what do they do about that? And she has, promises are binding in Faye, and she's promised her horse that she will take him home, and then she ends up having to promise somebody else that she will do something else, and then she's got these two conflicting promises that she can't see how she can deliver on both.
That's cool.
Conflict. Yeah. You all should read it.
Joanna's over here pointing out all this. She's like, conflict. You want some drama? Here you go.
Well, and I love Clary's different courts in her series, because it's not the typical ones that you often hear about. It's very, very cool.
Right, yeah. I love the shifting forest. I think that's it's like such a cool thing, because like all of my books have forest in it, because I'm obsessed with the forest. And I think there's just so much magic in it. Yeah. So it's like really cool to make that part of like, the conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost like another character.
Yeah.
No, the forest is great. I love the forest.
So you just said that that's going to be your next thing that you're going to be editing, because it's written, right?
Yes.
So then after that, you'll be writing the third dragon book?
Yes.
Okay. So that answers my question about what are you working on next. But so what about, are you reading anything right now?
I have just finished an ARC copy of Carol Beth Anderson's new Faye book called Fairy Fallen, which is very good. It was, stunning. More adult than other books she's written. But, wow.
That is the perfect review. That's cool.
That comes out in December, if anybody. I think December the 14th, but I'm not certain.
Okay. Nice. Do you usually read while you draft, or only when you edit, or only in between? Like, does that affect your writing at all?
It's not something I've tracked. I read, I'll read like a book in a day, and then I won't read anything for a week. It's very, there isn't a pattern to it. I will sit, I'll be in the mood for reading and I'll read loads, and then I just won't for a few weeks, and then I'll read again.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're a fast reader, so that's why I'm wondering. Like, you get through books so fast, but I know that like authors sometimes will take breaks from reading, just when they're drafting, or take breaks from reading when they're editing. So for somebody who's such a fast reader, I'm like,
I don't purposefully do it.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, you guys should definitely check out both of these series. I'll link everything below. Joanna, do you have any other pressing questions that you would like to ask our guest of honor? No?
We have to mention the bunnies.
Oh, yeah, the bunnies.
We have to mention the bunnies.
Got to mention the bunnies. What would you like to know about the bunnies? We have 5 bunnies.
Okay.
We started with 2, and then we got 3 more as a surprise. Despite, the vet telling us, oh, no, it's fine. They won't be able to do anything till 4 months, and we can't possibly do any operations till they're 4 months. And then guess what we got before they were 4 months old?
Surprise!
And then, we decided to keep them all. So we now have 5 rabbits. And 3 of them are, well, they're not pedigree, but they have the mate. There's a breed called lionhead rabbits. And they have like really floppy hair that looks like a big lion's mane around them. And so 3 of them have that. And the other 2 are short haired. They're very cute. They do get featured on my Instagram. So if you want to see pictures of bunnies.
Look at Claire's Instagram.
Yeah. They're so cute. I had something else I was going to ask, and now I don't remember what it was. So
bunnies.
Yeah,
it makes you forget.
I know. I get distracted. No. Yeah, no, this was great. I'm glad we can do these episodes and you had the time to come up here and talk about your books. It's just, I don't know. I just think it's fun. It's like a different format.
It's good to come and talk about them and to chat with you guys
we don't talk about our books enough. Yeah. But yeah, I'll definitely link everything in the description so you guys can check that out. On YouTube, it's linked in the description. It's linked on all the platforms as well. And make sure to give Clary a follow on her Instagram at Clarissa H. Gosling to see some bunnies and books. She does read a lot, so she features a lot of different books. And it's great because then I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to read this next. So it's great. But yeah, thanks so much for being here today, ladies. This was fun.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for doing this, Valia.
Yeah, of course. Before you guys go, please give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform and also on our Instagram at Reading Queens Pod. We're going to be doing, more exciting stuff. Our next episode, I'm going to spoil it for you. It's going to be all about writing. So if you are a writer or an aspiring writer, you can come and listen to us talk about writing. So, and all the exciting stuff because, we're going to geek out about it. But anyway, and tell your friends to come listen as well because we want to grow this family because that's what it is. And that is all I have to say for this. So, bye.
Bye.